Okay, runners, this is Coach Peter Pimp for the week of July 29, 2013. My thanks to sponsor DeadSoundRevival.com for this week's opening tune choice. So what's been happening? Well, I'm in a better mood this week than I was this time last week. You know what? It's almost getting embarrassing to say I'm from Toronto. Between the loose cannon newspaper journalists, the gridlock, and the police conduct, and now the city red tape, it's just been brutal lately. So what about the city? Well, last summer, every Friday morning, my daughter Laura and I would go to the Donald Somerville pool on the beaches. It's located near Woodbine Park. And it actually has a 50-meter Olympic-sized pool and a 25-meter training pool and a separate diving pool. So on Friday mornings I would spend 60 minutes pool running while Laura did her dolphin act, blazing up and down the 50-meter pool. And I gotta say, it's one of Toronto's least known treasures. When you're on the deck, you have a panoramic view of the Ashbridges Bay Beach, just like Rio. The pool is usually only open for about 2.5 months of the year, coinciding with a summer school break. And the admission is free, which is, well, that is a good thing. Crazy thing is, I only just discovered how great this facility was because of Laura last summer. Because although I've walked in the beaches many times over the years, I never really thought about the pool, because when you walk by it, you don't actually see the pools. It's an above ground facility, so it just looks like a big cement building. And so the curb appeal is not spectacular. And a little bit of history here, a little trivia, because I like to include some trivia. The pool is named after Donald D. Somerville, who was the mayor of Toronto. He became mayor in January of 1963, but tragically he died of a heart attack 10 months later. Yeah, when he suffered a heart attack while playing in a charity hockey tournament at George Bell Arena on November 19th. And what happened just 3 days later? President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Anyway, I went to the pool last week for the first time this summer, only to find out that it was under renovations. And as it turned out, it was closed until July 27th. So now it's only going to be open this summer for about 6 weeks. Really aggravating. You think they would have blitzed the rentals during the fall and spring months. Anyway, I was there yesterday morning, and I enjoyed a 55 minutes of heavenly pool running. It's just an amazing facility to do that. I would say the best in Toronto. So I'm in a better mood. On another city-related front, I mentioned last week I was going to be measuring the slightly revised 5K route for the boutique-ish B&O Yorkville run. Well, that still hasn't happened. The organizers are still waiting the city to approve the route. There's some concerning construction going on around Cumberland and Avenue Road right now. So we'll just have to see. But I'm confident that they'll eventually get the permission of the city fathers. But let's go, people. It's only 6 weeks away. But you never know about road construction. I had a funny incident. Well, kind of funny. A few years ago when I was the race director for the HBC run. And that route ran along the Martin Goodman Trail between Ontario Place and the Humber River. I had measured the route already and it had been certified. So what do you know, I go down to the route about 3 or 4 weeks before race day, and I discovered that about 100 meters of the trail along which the route was going had been completely ripped up. I think it was for the Dragon Boat races in Maryland Bell Park. Literally ripped up. You think they would have told us. Anyway, the route had to be remeasured and it had to go over some grass and be recertified. Okay, all of this sort of leads nicely into today's topic, because I'm often asked, how do you certify a route? Simple question, but it's a bit of a long-winded answer, warning you just now. So to save myself having to explain it every time, I've decided to give the answer in this audio, so I can just tell folks to listen in. You know, I started measuring routes in the 90s for certification purposes, and I found out why not that many races were certified, and even nowadays there's still a lot not. And why is that? Because it's a hell of a lot of work. Basically, what you have to do is measure the route according to a very exacting protocol that's being established by the International Association of Athletics Federation, the IAAF. And then you have to complete a very lengthy application for certification. And this is submitted to Athletics Canada for a review. And if all is good, abracadabra, the route's bestowed, certification. So just to be clear, I'm the measurer and Athletics Canada is the certifier. In Ontario, there are only a handful of wee crazy life-risking course measures that are deemed acceptable by Athletics Canada. So let me tell you what the steps are, and I apologize in advance for the detail. I did say long-winded. First thing you need is a bike and a gadget called the Jones Counter, which attaches to your wheel axle, and the Jones Counter simply displays increasing counts up to 5 places as you ride along. You can see a photo of a Jones Counter on the website. Just go to the course measurement link, which is on the services page. Next thing you need to do is calibrate your bike, and for this you need a calibration course, usually 300 meters in length, and these calibration courses have been measured according to strict criteria as well and approved by Athletics Canada. I'm not going to go into detail about those. That's another story. There's a few of these in the Toronto area. The routes are always on the roads where on one side of the road there is no parking, so that you can have a nice clear ride when you're calibrating. So now you go with your bike to the calibration course, and then you ride it 4 times, noting how many counts each ride is. Then you take the average of the measurements and mathematically calculate how many counts are in a kilometer. And then the protocol stipulates that you multiply the counts, the average counts, by 1.001. It's called the short course factor. So basically you're adding 1 meter onto each of your measured kilometers. Okay, let's take a breath. I need a sip of coffee here. Just 1 second here. Maxwell. So now you go to your course site. Then it's really math and paper time, because you then record what your Jones Counter's starting count is going to be, and add on to it the number of counts you're going to be at each of the 1, 2, 3, etc. kilometer points. So now you're good to go, and away you go, riding the route, following the shortest line a runner would take, which can be hairy in traffic. And as you go along, you have to stop and mark with paint. You have to mark, I usually do it with paint, spray paint, each kilometer point. And that's the first ride, but you're not done yet. By the way, is any listener still awake at this point? Anyway, as a double check, you have to do it again to see how the second ride compares to the first ride, noting the counts at each of the earlier marked kilometer points. And the 2 rides must be within a certain percentage of each other, and if they're not, you need to start over. Horrors of horrors. That's never happened to me, actually. But you're still not done, because now you have to go back to the 300-meter calibration course and do another 4 rides like before. Why is that, Peter? Well, it's because since you did the first calibration, the air temperature has likely changed during the course of the day. That in turn can change the diameter of your bike's wheels, which in turn affects the number of counts per kilometer. So you find out what the average counts are, and if different, you take the average of the before and after counts, and then you recalculate the distance of the route you measured using the new counts per kilometer, and if it's different, you have to go back to the route site and add or subtract a certain amount of meters to get the correct distance. You can now complete about 9 pages of application and submit it to Athletics Canada. Is anyone still out there listening? Now you understand why I did this. And things can happen that cause you to question the meaning of life. I'll tell you, for example, I've gone first thing in the morning to the calibration course because you'll want to do this sort of thing before many cars are on the road. And I've gotten there only to discover some a-hole has illegally parked on the road, blocking the straight ride. And then I've had to go knocking on doors to find the felon. And you know what? Some people just don't look that great that early in the morning. On a couple of other occasions, once measuring a marathon, the other measuring a half marathon, I got a flat tire partway through the second rides, which meant the entire day was eradicated. The entire work was done. And I'm not going to tell you the new swearing combinations I invented on those occasions. So now you know why many races still exist that are not certified. And I'll let you, continue with your sleep. So that's it for now, runners. And a reminder that if you need some assistance in your training, please consider my coaching services. I'm user friendly. See you on the roads, measured and unmeasured.